upstanding for His Worship the Mayor.
Croeso I gyfarfod llawn yn Cyngor. Welcome to the full council meeting. Please note that this meeting will be recorded for subsequent broadcast via the authority's internet site. The images and sound recording may also be used for training purposes within the authority. The public seating areas will be in view with the camera, and by entering the chamber and using the public seating area, members of the public are consenting to being filmed and to the possible use of those images and sound recordings as outlined above. So the first item on the agenda, apologies for absence. Are there any apologies?
Yes, Mr Mayor, there are apologies from Councillor Paul Brown and from Councillor Harvey Jones.
Thanks. The second item on the agenda, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations? Councillor Gibbs?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Agenda item number 8, the housing renewal policy. I'll have to declare a personal and prejudicial interest as I have an interest in this policy.
Thanks. Any other declarations of interest? Oh, Malcolm.
Sorry, Mr Mayor, not a declaration of interest, but if it's a long meeting, I apologise, but I'll have to leave at 6:30.
Thanks. Lovely. So the next item on the agenda, item number 3, the minutes of previous meetings. Is there a proposer?
Those minutes, Mr Mayor.
Yes.
And I second those, Mr Mayor.
Second, lovely. Yeah, it's not for discussion, it's just for clarification, mistakes, yes.
I just got one point, Mr Mayor, if I could raise it. 3A on page 8, it says that the winter night shelter will be deferred, but I notice it's not on tonight's agenda. Just wondering if there was any reason for that.
Yeah, the report that was coming to council last council, which was deferred, was around alternative locations for the night shelter for this coming year. It was a change to the policy that we had in place. We've explored all the options available for the provision for this year, and it's become clear that the only provision that will be available will be the town centre base, which has been used for the last 2 years. As such, a report will be coming back, but it'll be coming back to Cabinet as opposed to Council.
Thank you, Alan.
So if there are no other clarifications, then we'll go to the vote then. Thanks. Oh, yeah, the voting's complete. And oh, it's carried, yes, thanks. The next item on the agenda, item number 4, is a notice of motion, and Tanya's going to propose that one.
Okay. So this is about trying to support Lucy's Law. Anyone who owns or has owned a dog understands perfectly why they truly are man's best friend. Their unconditional loyalty and their beauty are just 2 of the many qualities we love about our dogs. Unfortunately, these very qualities can also make them vulnerable to becoming a commodity, used as breeding machines by morally corrupt people. Given the chance, our dogs spend their lives serving and protecting us. Now it's our turn to protect them. The Lucy's Law campaign started after a Cavalier King Charles named Lucy was rescued from a puppy farm. Lucy had spent her life confined to a cage, churning out puppies until her body was broken. When she was finally rescued, her spine was curved and her hips were fused together. She'd lost all her fur and had burns on her skin from lying in her own waste. Luckily for Lucy, she was able to spend the remainder of her days being loved and pampered by her new owner, Lisa Garner, before sadly passing away in 2016. Supporting this law will mean cutting out third-party sellers and will reduce the health problems associated with animals reared in poor conditions. It means those wanting to buy or adopt a pet less than 6 months old will have to go directly to the breeder or to a rescue centre. There is still much to be done to protect dogs from exploitation, but Lucy's Law is a very positive step in the right direction. I would urge you all not just to vote, but to raise awareness of the terrible practices and prevalence of puppy farming and encourage your constituents to use reputable breeders or rescue centres when looking for a dog. Thank you.
Is there a seconder?
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'd like to second in saying Puppet Cariad, the Canine Welfare Group. Oh, right, sorry.
Okay, so I propose that the Council requests that the leader writes to the Welsh and UK Government supporting the call for urgent action on this matter. Thank you.
Is there a seconder?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Puppet Cariad, the Canine Welfare Group, and Canine Action UK have brought the issue of puppy farming to the fore in Wales and the UK. Wales has more farmed puppies than anywhere else in the UK. It is difficult to monitor and inspect these puppy farms because of limited resources. However, I support the motion Councillor Tanya Skinner has brought and thank her for highlighting the issue, and I second the motion.
Are there any questions? No. Is there any comments? No. Oh, well, we'll go straight. Oh, I beg your pardon. Yes. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I mean, we're all aware of Lucy's, the Lucy's Law campaign. It's something that the Labour group fully support. I myself have a dog from the Dogs Trust. We rescued Asbo, his name was. I didn't name him. That's another matter. But he has got an antisocial behaviour problem, I think. But no, we fully support this and we welcome the report this evening. Thank you.
Well, if there's no other comments, then we may as well go to the vote. Thanks. That's complete and it's unanimously carried then. The next item on the agenda, item number 5, is a notice of motion with Rule 401. I understand the leaders taking us through this.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you said, Rule 401, 16B of the Council's Constitution states, be motion similar to one previously rejected. A motion or amendment in similar terms to one that has been rejected at a meeting of Council in the past 6 months cannot be moved unless the notice of motion or amendment is signed by at least 5 councillors. Once the motion or amendment is dealt with, no one can propose a similar motion or amendment for a further 6 months. At Council on the 7th of November, the Council considered report in respect of the medium-term financial plan 2019-20 to 2022-23, Update 1, which contained 4 recommendations. As a result of the vote, Council did not accept any of the recommendations contained within the report and the motion to do so was lost. There clearly appear to be some misunderstanding in respect of the content of the report and the recommendations, and as such is considered important and in the interest of good governance of the Council that a further report with amended recommendations on the medium-term financial plan be presented to Council on the 21st of November 2018. As such, the recommendation that a further report on the medium-term financial plan 2019-20 to 2022-23, Update 1 with amendment recommendations be presented to the Council on the 21st November for consideration. I so move, Mr. Mayor.
Is there a seconder?
I second that, Mr. Mayor.
Right, lovely, thanks. So are there any questions? No. No questions across there? No. Any comments? Oh, Chris?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I do take a little bit of disrespect to the wording of the motion, saying that there's believed to be some misunderstanding in respect to the content of the report and the recommendations. I think from the point of view of the author, I think they were quite clear what was trying to be portrayed in the content of the report and the recommendations. I think I made the comment at the council meeting a fortnight ago. They were very presumptuous recommendations on the content of the report. When you consider the Cabinet only earlier this afternoon has considered the Revenue Budget Monitoring Report for Q2, which does provide all of the details that the other report, in terms of a medium-term financial plan update the Council was proposing. So I think it's a bit of cart before the horse, really. You know, Council was asked to be considered a report a fortnight ago that didn't bring the detail. The detail was only being presented to Cabinet this afternoon, so I don't know how Council, we had a full debate last time, was expected to approve recommendations on information that wasn't included in the report, and I think that was a comment that was echoed across the chamber. I just think it's a little bit really insulting, really, to say there was misunderstanding. I think it was very clear what was being proposed. It's just, you know, I'm happy to support the motion, but just wanted to make that point.
Are there any other comments? No one across? There's no other comments. Did you have anything to say before we close?
I'd just like to thank the leaders who got together. There was Tony, Julian, Darren, Clive, who got together and we sat down and worked through the report. I understand Chris's view on maybe the word in there, but certainly there was clearly more information required. We had a discussion and we got that information, and I'm really grateful of the time and the effort put into it by everybody else. We often have the doomsday scenario presented to us in this chamber about what if, but there is a doomsday scenario around the budget. We need to line up our budget. In fairness to Chris, I spoke to Chris one-to-one in this previously, and he made a very valid point, and maybe it's the point he's making now, is that we are very close to it. We see the detail all the time. We live it every day, and I understand that maybe because of where we are, that's what happens, and sometimes we sometimes assume that maybe people know more than they do. So my plea is that accepting we don't want to make that sort of mistake again, and accepting we need to get this budget lined up, we convene that group more often at a time where it's appropriate, where we didn't get to, and something again Chris also put forward about maybe a later evening meeting. So when we've got these budgetary issues that people feel they need more information, and particularly with voluntary redundancies, etc., on the agenda, that we can formulate that group to ensure that everybody has that information that we can move forward with, and we don't have this particular scenario again. So I just want to, again, reiterate my thanks to everyone who got together. I think we got to the right place. It seems that maybe a bit more conversations with Chris and in relation to his concerns might be necessary, but I just thought it was a good exercise, and we only know what we know now, and we need to do more in the future to make sure that information's out there.
Oh, so we'll take it to the vote then. Thanks. Oh, that's complete. And it's unanimous. Thanks. So the next item on the agenda item 6, the medium-term financial plan. And understand Andrew's taking that. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Medium-term financial plan 1920, 21, 22, 23, update 1. The medium-term financial plan was taken to full council 7th of March 2018 with the original projections, and Cabinet and full council of the 7th of November 2018 with revised projections. These now stand at 5.64 million for 1920, 17.277 for 2021-22. Following meetings with the leaders, deputy leaders, the opposition groups, as the leader alluded to, conversations and correspondence with Councillor Chris Davis. There have also been presentations to the Labour group by a 151 officer and Deputy Chief Executive. The medium-term financial plan is back with us. Now, the discussions, work and time put in by officers of this administration has hopefully clarified any questions in members' minds. In case anyone is still unclear, within the recommendations you'll find the term subject to scrutiny committee. So there is still opportunity to examine elements of the medium-term financial plan. Tonight, though, I do want to ask for a recorded vote to see how everybody votes here. But first, if I go to the recommendations, and then perhaps we can vote on the recorded vote first, and then the report. So the recommendations are 2.1. The implications of the provisional local government settlement for 2019-20 outlined in section 5 and appendices 1 and 2 be noted and accepted. 2.2. The Cabinet recommended corporate additional demands outlined in section 6 and appendix 3 be approved subject to scrutiny committee deliberation. 2.3, the Cabinet recommended corporate budget reductions outlined in Section 7 and Appendix 4 be approved, subject to Scrutiny Committee deliberation. 2.4, the Cabinet recommended school budget reductions outlined in Section 8 be approved, subject to appropriate consultation, Scrutiny Committee deliberation, and further report to Cabinet and Council. I so move.
So, before we have the vote on the recorded vote, is there a seconder to this?
I second,
motion?
Mr Mayor.
Seconder. So the next thing, yeah. So the next thing then, we'll have, so the 5 people that want a recorded vote that support it, show your hands. Yeah. So it will be a recorded vote then. Thanks. Are there any questions on the medium-term financial plan? Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Under the recommendations, the last 3, 2.2, 2.3, 2.4, as has been alluded to by Councillor Barry, the last 5 words there are subject to Scrutiny Committee deliberation. If I could have some clarification on that. We have a number of scrutiny committees, and I presume what that means is that any additional demands or any proposed cuts that are currently in this medium-term financial plan will be referred to the appropriate scrutiny committee, because that is where the work should be done. And after that, there should be a joint meeting of the scrutiny committee and audit committee, so that those who are not on the relevant scrutiny committee can also have an input in it. Could you have some clarification, please?
Yes, it was the just actual intention that this then report would be going to the Joint Scrutiny Audit Committee on the 23rd of January, which is the scheduled meeting in January. That was the intention.
That's why I asked the question, Mr Mayor, because I think that we are facing, for example, just under £5 million worth of additional demands. It's quite exceptional. And if the scrutiny committees need to do their work, it needs to be referred to each of those before we have this meeting on the 23rd.
I'm quite happy for that. So if you want that to be referred to the actual scrutiny committees, then I'm sure that's something that we can do for next month, and then we can wrap them all up in the Joint Scrutiny Audit Committee then in January.
That's all the proposals we're talking about.
That'll be everything which is now contained in this report. Yes.
Can I ask, I've got a second question, Mr Mayor. It's for clarification on 2.4, because as well as saying it's for the Scrutiny Committee deliberation, it says in there, subject to appropriate consultation. And could I ask either the Chief Education Officer or the Cabinet member if you could clarify where the consultation is taking place, with whom, and particularly in respect of all the schools. For example, what's been proposed here, is that going to each of the governing bodies of all the schools that we've got in the county borough?
As every year with the Schools Forum, any proposals that are made by the Schools Forum are subject to a 2-week consultation with head teachers and chairs of governors. That's who it's sent to. It's then up to the chairs of governors whether they discuss it with their full governing body, and then it's signed off whether they are in agreement or not. And depending on the outcome of this evening, that information is ready to go to chairs and head teachers tomorrow. This is how the school budget proposals are taken forward. However, those of you that are on governing bodies or chairs of governing bodies or chairs of finance may also know that we have pulled together a meeting next Wednesday where discussions on budget will take place with head teachers, chairs of governors and chairs of finance committee. And myself, Steve, Ellis and Gareth will be presenting at that meeting.
Are there any other questions? No? Are there any comments? Oh, Darren?
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. At full council on Wednesday, the 7th of November 2018, the Labour Group voted against the recommendations in the Medium-Term Financial Plan 2019-20 to 2022-23. We believe that there was not enough detail within the report, and we clearly disagreed with the cuts to the education budget of £694,000 and the increase in school meals. There were also other areas that we did not agree with. The Labour Group has been given more information about the detail of the MTFP and the relevant timelines involved. Thank you to Steve and Ellis for taking the time to attend our group meeting yesterday evening. We understand that the local authority is faced with unprecedented levels of cuts and that the service delivery will be affected by these cuts. However, it is a political choice where these cuts are applied. Mr Mayor, I would like the Minister to show that the Labour Group are not voting against the recommendation set out on page 56 this evening. However, we want it recorded that we do not support areas of the plan, but we understand that the local authority must update and present its medium-term financial plan. When the full budget setting process starts and the full budget lines presented, we will then scrutinise everything, as I do not believe this is necessary here tonight. Mr Mayor, as previously mentioned, we ask that enough time is allowed so that the debate can be had when setting the budget, and enough time to revisit this should the budget not be approved. We don't want a repeat of last year. So to be clear, we have concerns about some of the cuts identified within the MTFP, but understand that this is just a snapshot of where we are at this moment in time, and that this may change when the budget setting process takes place. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Isaacs.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. As a member of the Labour Group, I won't be voting against this report tonight, on the understanding that it's a snapshot in time of the medium-term financial plan, rather than the budget for 2019-2020. Also, it doesn't mean that I will necessarily be voting in favour of all future proposed budget cuts. I will take each proposal on its merits and challenge and vote accordingly.
Are there any other comments?
That obviously that altered a lot, and I was part of the delegation that met with the largest group here, the independent group. But I think there were some very, very pertinent points. I think we've got to go over this stage. It's got to be done. But I think the nub of it is, and as quite rightly pointed out by the leader of the Labour Group there, the nub of it is going to be the test when it comes to setting a budget. Then I think then it'll be, I don't know, I can't tell you exactly what's going to happen, but I think it's going to be really scrutinised, and not the scrutinised committee, but I think every member here is going to scrutinise it very, very deliberately and find out exactly where we're going. But I think on this stage, I think we should support it, let it go through, and then the main point is when it comes to setting the budget, and I think that's the time then, every opportunity to find out whether the group, the largest independent group, have done their work, and if it's good enough for the local authority to set. I don't know yet. It remains to be seen.
Thanks. So, no more quite. Oh, Councillor Jones.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. It's in relation to my question on the actual consultation with the schools, etc. As a governor of one of the largest primary schools, one of the largest secondary schools in the county borough, I don't think, with what we've been faced with here, that 14 days from tomorrow is sufficient to consult with the schools. I really don't.
Thanks. Councillor Mitten.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think I just wanted to make a couple of points. The MTFP is a living document. It is a living plan, and it hasn't just come to Council on the 7th of November. It hasn't just come to Council on the 21st of November. It's come to Council with many colleagues in the room sitting in this council chamber over the last couple of years. Yes, we do have political choice, but I just wanted to stress again as well, in relation to scrutiny, it is about
all members of this council ensuring that there is good governance and good governance prevails. And whether or not a recommendation recommends something to go to scrutiny, what we must remember as chairs of scrutiny or as members of scrutiny is that we can call in any particular item from a council agenda at any particular time. We can also include it in our forward work programmes, and good governance would include a financial aspect of what we need to scrutinise, and that's not just in audit committee, but that should be through any scrutiny. So for instance, my scrutiny lay skip, I would recommend that the chair does actually call that in and that it is scrutinised. It can also be scrutinised as far as the school budgets are concerned, and rightly do so, that as, do that as well. In relation to my colleague's point about the school's budget and 14 days, I too sit on the same governing body, and I'm sure that we'll discuss an element of this in tomorrow night's governing body meeting. However, as I said, and I'll reiterate it again, this came from Schools Budget Forum, didn't happen overnight. This first report was brought in March 2018, and information has been given and has been provided to colleagues. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
The leader reserved the right, so we'll close after the leader has spoken. There's no one else now.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for the clarity from all parties present where they stand and the position. Much of the discussion we had previously was about process. It was about how the report went out, how information went out, how information was gathered, whether we had enough information. Political preference wasn't discussed that much, to be honest with you. I'm grateful for that clarity now that there's an issue in relation to the education element. I repeat again, as I said at the meeting, I'm not hiding anything. There's nothing hiding you. If we're getting it wrong, I'm happy to hear that we are getting it wrong. But I also would ask that we're all accountable here as councillors. I would welcome the position of not so much that telling us we're getting it wrong, maybe telling us where we should get it right as well.
Yeah.
So, we're all accountable as councillors. We're all here. Yeah, we are the leadership group, and I'm perfectly aware of that. Yeah, and I take that responsibility seriously, and I'll hit it head on, and I'll take all that's thrown at me from wherever angle it comes. But this is a big thing, the budget. And I just want to raise that point that I'm sure that everybody wants to get it right. And financial prudence is important, and we have to line that up with a political intention from some areas. From my perspective, we want to do the best for everybody in Merthyr Tydfil. We can only do that with financial probity. Open and clear what we're doing. We all, as councillors, have the responsibility, and we all should contribute together in the future to make it right. And in some of that, there will be compromise. There will be movement one side or the other. But we won't be able to deliver any service if we don't get that position right. Thank you.
Well, we'll take it to the recorded votes then.
Yes, thank you. So if I call out your name, can you then please switch on your microphone and tell me whether you are for the motion or against the motion? And that way we will have not only a paper recorded vote, but you'll be recorded on screen making your vote. So, Councillor Julian Amos, are you for or against the motion?
For.
Councillor Howard Barrett. Councillor Andrew Barry.
For.
Councillor Chris Barry.
For.
Councillor Paul Brown is absent. Councillor Brent Carter.
Sorry. For.
Councillor David Chaplin.
For.
Councillor Malcolm Colbrand.
For.
Councillor Chris Davis.
For.
Councillor Jeremy Davis.
For.
Councillor Lee Davis.
For.
Councillor Ernie Goldsworthy.
For.
Councillor Kevin Gibbs.
For.
Councillor David Hughes.
For.
Councillor David Isaac.
For.
For.
Councillor Clive Jones.
For.
Councillor David Jones.
For.
Councillor Harvey Jones is absent. Councillor Gareth Lewis.
For.
Councillor Lisa Mitten.
For.
Councillor Kevin O'Neill.
For.
Councillor Gareth Richard.
Thank you.
For.
Councillor Tony Rogers.
For.
Councillor Declan Salmon.
For.
Councillor Tanya Skinner.
For.
Councillor Bill Smith.
Oh, all right. Fair enough. Susan saying yes, thank you. Yeah.
Councillor Geraint Thomas.
For.
Councillor Ian Thomas.
For.
Councillor John Thomas.
For.
Councillor Scott Thomas.
For.
And Councillor Clive Tovey.
For.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. That is unanimous.
Thanks. So the next item on the agenda item 7, the Independent Remuneration Panel for Wales, the draft annual report. I understand Councillor Barry's taking this.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The Independent Remuneration Panel for Wales draft annual report published its draft annual report on the 2nd of October 2018. It proposes at 1.3.1 a basic salary increase, 1.3.2 leader, deputy, executive member increase, and 1.3.3 changes to payments of civic heads and deputies. The financial detail is shown in Appendix 1 and 2. I know Anne Taylor has sent out an email to all members to a link to the annual report. Within the recommendations of 2.2, if you do have any comments you wish to make to the Independent Review Panel, Anne Taylor will coordinate responses for all members. And within the recommendations of 2.1, the content of the draft annual report of the Independent Review Panel for Wales for 1920 be noted, and 2.2 comments are forwarded to Democratic Services for collation and forwarding on to the Independent Review Panel for Wales before the consultation deadline, which is on Tuesday the 27th of November. I so move, Mr Mayor.
Seconder?
I second that.
Thanks. Are there any questions? No questions. Any comments? Oh, Tanya, yeah.
Yeah, just to say that I know in the past the whole chamber have come out in support, and we actually voted against a pay increase in solidarity. And while I understand why we were urged not to do that, because obviously there's a need for more councillors to come in, and the salary isn't that great. I still can't get past the fact that our police services and certainly our nurses have not had similar pay increases. So I can't support this. And even if it does go through tonight, then I'll be making sure that I donate the pay increase.
Yes, can I just be clear to everybody, you are not voting through any pay increase tonight. What you are doing is noting that the IRPW recommends it, and then for you to give comments to Anne Taylor. So if you don't agree with it, that's the thing to do, is to make your comment to Anne Taylor, which will then be forwarded to the IRPW, and then we can decide where we go from there. But that's not what you're doing tonight.
I was just going to say that. So are there any other comments? Okay.
Just to ask that, do councillors still get the carers allowance? Now, it was pretty controversial, and it was voted in a good few years ago now. Do councillors still get that? Or I don't think anybody's claimed it in this authority, but I was wondering, was part of the package?
Yes, it's still part of the package. In fact, they make a point within the report of saying it's underclaimed, so there's an encouragement to claim that amount, but it is still in there.
Yeah. Are there any other comments? Or if there's no comments, then we'll put it to the vote. Thanks. Oh, that's completed. There we are. Oh, it's unanimous. Okay, thanks. The next item on the agenda item 8, the Housing Renewal Policy. Sorry. Next item on the agenda, the Housing Renewal Policy. I understand Geraint is taking this.
Housing Renewal Policy. The summary of the report is set out in 1.1 and 1.2. Legislation requires the local authorities create and publish a housing renewal policy which clearly defines the types of assistance available and who is eligible to apply. The updated version of the policy covering the period 22nd of November 2018 to the 31st of March 21 was sent out via a link and was on, from Democratic Services along with an addendum. Introduction is set out in 3.1 to 3.6. The changes to the policy are set out in 4.1. The financial implications are in 5.1 to 5.3. 5.1, the DFG discretionary top-up grant shall be funded within the current DFG capital allocation within the Council's capital programme. 5.2, the exceptional circumstances well-being considerations is a new policy development is likely to lead to additional costs to the Council. The financial implication of this additional criteria cannot be quantified at this time. I'd like to say this is a new policy that's being brought forward, and it gives our most vulnerable people in Merthyr Tydfil a chance to get the adaptations that they need in their properties. In 5.3, the loans funding pot provided to the Council by Welsh Government is ring-fenced and recyclable. Only available loans funds will be administered, so there is no current financial implications arising from the loan products. I'll go straight to the recommendations, Mr Mayor. In 2.1, the Housing Renewal Policy, 22nd November 2018, 31st of March 2021, along with today's addendum, be approved with immediate effect. I so move.
Is there a seconder?
I second, Mr Mayor, and reserve the right to speak.
Right, thanks. Are there any questions? Yes, Darren, yeah.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Obviously, the housing renewal policy is really important, and the the DFG element even more important. The Labour Group have got some grave concerns about this report. Firstly, it's only 3 pages. I understand the background papers were circulated to members on Monday, and an addendum came out to myself yesterday, and a lot of my members didn't receive it, so it actually came out at 11 o'clock this morning. Again, we feel there's not enough detail within this report to look at it with a viewpoint of how we should support it or not. So what I'm proposing, Mr Mayor, is that we defer this until the next meeting, and we ask for the report to come back with far more detail and where we can, business cases and costings and everything, so that we can really look at it in depth and make a decision on it, because it is really important. I take on Councillor Thomas's viewpoint. You know, we need to make sure that we are looking after the most vulnerable in our community, and the only way we can do that is if we have all the detail to make a decision on it.
So an amendment has been proposed. Is there a seconder for that?
Yes, I second that.
Councillor Jones seconds it. So, are there any questions? Yeah. Are there any questions about the amendment? No questions. Are there any comments about the amendment? Okay, Councillor Thomas.
Obviously, I thought that when the agenda came up, that there was a link for the housing report, the full policy to be seen, and I thought that went through when it went to agenda last week. If it wasn't picked up, well, that's a matter for Democratic Services to answer. And if the opposition feel they haven't had a chance to read the report, well, I would agree with that. Yeah, if they haven't seen it. Yeah.
Are there any other comments on the amendment? If there's no comments, did you? Oh yeah.
Are the group is Geraint accepting the amendment?
Yeah. Yeah, we'll just take it to the vote. So, did you have any further comments? No. Yes. No. Oh, right you are then. So we'll take the amendment to the vote. Would you like to, well, if you'd like to read out the amendment, just for the record.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The amendment is a recommendation that this housing renewal policy and all associated documents be referred back to the next council meeting, and more detail be presented to all elected members for consideration. Thank you.
We'll take that amendment to the vote then. Thanks. That's complete. So it's carried unanimously. We better get Kevin back in then. Thanks. The next item on the agenda is an information report, an annual report on social services. So everyone would have read that. So I have no other urgent business. There is one communication. The Dowlas British Legion was Kerry Bunce. He's been there for years. He wanted me to tell the council how grateful he was for all the help that the Legion have got every year through, from the council and individual councillors. He said all the years he's been there, he's always found the council and the councillors, local councillors, very helpful. I had a bad back when they were painting the railings up at Pants myself, but he did want me to bring that to the council. So that's the meeting closed then. Thanks.